Hello everyone. In this video, I am going to talk about my book. I launched this book in July 2023. The title of the book is Contextualizing Spirituality, Breaking the Time Cycle. Now, before I tell you what this book is about, let me first tell you what this book is not about. So this book is definitely not about religious preaching because I think spirituality has its own unique place. This book is also not about telling you about certain number of habits of being successful, peaceful, prosperous. Uh, I always had this curiosity about these numbers. Why not 5? Why not 50? Why not 200? Something like that, right? Because I always believed, because I am also into research, that there are always one or two basic rules which govern most of the things, almost everywhere, right? So this book is about my pursuit of exploring that one and only most important thing in our life. Yeah, sounds very philosophical, but it was interesting, right? And hopefully I'll be able to communicate some of it to you as well, right? Now, why me? uh, why I got to experience that. So again, without getting again too much philosophical here, very pragmatic aspects of my life, like there are three important aspects in my life which probably contributed to this. So I'll talk about that. uh, First is my research area. I work in the area of optimization. What is typically involved in this? We deal with very complex production system, manufacturing, supply chain, logistics. We try to simulate those systems, uh, use algorithms such as artificial intelligence, genetic algorithm, to maximize profit, productivity, efficiency, or minimizing the risk associated with the system, cost or uncertainty. Now, while I was focusing on these external systems, there was always an obvious curiosity. Uh, like, what really we mean by optimizing our own internal systems, like our own life? What do we want to optimize in our life? So, this was always a curiosity. So, that was one pointer. Second, and one of the most important aspect is my association with music. So I am a mouth organ player, and it is such a divine feeling. I completely get lost in that. Many times I completely lose the sense of time, uh, and it seems very positive and divine. uh, so in one way, when I was experiencing that, I was also thinking, oh, the kind of feeling I get while I am into my music. Uh, is it possible to maximize that feeling in everything I do, not just music, right? So this was another pointer of exploration as well as curiosity. Third point is my association with this recent technology, artificial intelligence. Now, fortunately, I happen to represent India in this ISO International Standardization Forum. We recently published one standard, ISO IEC 5339. Uh, During this activity, I happen to interact with best of the experts in the area of artificial intelligence across the globe. And what came out very distinctively during this exercise uh, was how do we really look at intelligence? Like, what qualifies as intelligence and what qualifies as non-intelligence, right? Whether it's natural or whether it's artificial, right? And this is where the concept of context came out very, very nicely. So yeah, these three things kind of resulted into this book, right? So maybe I'll explain that to you as I move along. Okay, so there are two important words in this book. One is context and other is spirituality. Let me try to briefly define those. Uh, I don't want to take an existing definition uh, as a theory or anything, because I think the best way to define anything is to feel it. If you can feel it, then we don't need to validate that definition. We don't need any further approval of any sort, right? So let's look at first context. Now you are looking at a fan here. Uh, let's say you have to explain working of this fan to a 3-year-old. uh, One of the best approach to probably explain that is, uh, tell that kid that, oh, there is a small fairy or a god sitting there, and by miracle they're moving that. I think this is a reasonably good explanation for a 3-year-old. uh, let's take second scenario. A matured person, but who is not an expert in physics. uh, to that person, if you have to explain, you will probably say, oh, you must have seen a mixer grinder or a water pump. There is a motor there that moves. Similar motor is here in the casing, and that moves the fan. I think that is reasonably good explanation. Now, third scenario is, you are trying to explain this to a physics student. To him, you will probably explain through concepts of electrons, electromagnetism, current, and all that. That's quite good explanation for him. Now, if you look at this scenario, every time you are looking at one single question, but depending on the context of who is asking that question, appropriateness of your answer is determined. Appropriateness or intelligence of your answer. Now, you imagine, to a 3-year-old, if you explain through the concept of physics, no matter how much time you spend, you may do PhD in physics, you may even get Nobel Prize in physics, but considering the context of a 3-year-old asking that question, this does not make any sense. This is non-intelligent act. Same way, if for a physics student, if you give an explanation that there is a fairy and God sitting there and moving the fan, you know what he would think about you, right? So what I'm trying to communicate here is this: intelligence is intelligence in the right context, right? And if you miss that context, we may put best of our efforts, but that will only lead to anxiety and frustration. Now you imagine, you may do PhD, you may work very hard in getting many innovations in physics. However, whenever there is a context of explaining it to a 3-year-old, you won't be able to explain with those fundamentals, right? So although you might think, oh, I am doing the right thing, but when the context is to explain to a 3-year-old, you won't be able to explain that, and it will only lead to anxiety and frustration, and it will not lead you anywhere, right? So what I'm trying to point to here, maybe in our life also we are facing anxiety, frustration in many things, maybe our relationships, maybe our work, social front, and all that. There can be many other factors, but maybe there can be this aspect of not really understanding the context. And we will think that, oh, we are working so hard, but nothing comes out, only leading us towards frustration and anxiety, right? So just keep that at the back of your mind right now. We'll further take this as we move along. Now, second word, spirituality. If I have to define sugar or sweetness, I think the best way to define sugar is not by writing an essay about it or poems about it. I think the best way to define it is by having it, right? Same way, I'm just trying to explain uh, within the context of what I am dealing with in this book, the concept of spirituality through that feeling, right? And I will call that feeling as feeling of timelessness. Now, this is where my music helped me. So whenever I'm playing mouth organ, or let's say even whenever, let's say, you are doing something, some hobby which you love from within, whether it's a game, whether it's an art and all, we would have many times realized that how really time passed. We did not get any idea. Oh my God, so much time passed, I did not realize, right? Now, this is a very unique state which most of us keep experiencing most of the time. This particularly when we are doing something which we love from within, maybe art, uh, some talking to somebody whom we really care for or love, uh, playing a game, etc. Right? So if you really analyze this feeling, this has no level of anxiety or restlessness associated with that. Lot of positivity, divinity of sort. Right? So right now, at least till the time you are with me, uh, assume this as the definition of spirituality. Again, there are lots of attributes which has that kind of feel or appeal, right? So let's take that for some time. Now I'm asking you one question. If I tell you that if you want to extend this feeling for a longer time, forever, would you really love to have that? I think definitely yes, right? All of us would love to have this feeling. But then that obvious question is, why we can't stay in this moment forever? Now, let me deal with certain scenarios here. So let's say you are in that state for some time. Let's say I am playing my music. I can be doing that for 1 hour, 2 hour, 3, 4, 5 hours. If not anything, maybe something related to personal, professional, something will kick in. Let's say even we excuse ourselves from all of this. Let's say we are kind of a sand going in Himalayas, so none of that would bother us. But if not anything else, at least you will feel hungry. If there is a rain or something, you need a shelter, right? Now, let's take one step ahead. Maybe somebody is telling you that, your food and all is taken care of for you, for your family, anybody you care for, your shelter is taken care of. If that is sure, if that is certain, we definitely will love to explore all these scenarios where we get that feeling of timelessness. Now, this is where the catch is. We talked about one aspect of time that we love, which is timelessness, but there is another aspect of time which really spoils this or tends to spoil this. Now, as I told, maybe something might be guaranteed for you, but this is where the problem is, and that is this aspect of time, which is time uncertainty. Nothing can be guaranteed for us because the most certain thing about time is time uncertainty, right? So nobody can guarantee what is in store for you at the next moment. Now, okay, nothing rocket science for us, all of us know that, right? Now, another thing to note here is, how do we really address this? All of us know this, right? And we do address that. And what is the way we address this? Usually, to address uncertainty, we try to provision for things, right? If you look at all our life, we are trying to provision for food, our stay, the insurance that we buy, or uh, the money we store and invest and all that, the education that we take, that is all to address this time uncertainty and provision for our future, ours as well as our near and dear ones, right? Now, this is where the real struggle starts. I'll again explain you a few examples. Let's say if there is a beggar moving on the road, he might be earning some 50 rupees a day. If suddenly you give him 1,000 rupees, he will be happiest person on the earth. No complaints, right? Somebody who earns, let's say, 5,000 rupees per month, if you give him some 1 lakh, he will be happiest. Somebody is earning a salary of, let's say, 10 lakhs in a year, you give him 1 crore, happiest. Somebody who is having a business in Bangalore, he wants to take it to Pune, he wants to take it to Delhi, then to London and New York, right? What I'm trying to communicate here is, there is no upper limit on addressing this uncertainty. Rather, as soon as you tend to approach the upper limit that you think is an upper limit, that becomes the lower limit, and you crave for more. And again, the very factor which is contributing to that is time uncertainty and our approach of provisioning for that, right? So what essentially we are looking at here is a limitless struggle. Now, if you really look at it, we as a human species, we have conquered the earth. We say that we are trying to go to Mars. Probably we'll get there as well, but then we will always want to go beyond that as well. So this is never going to end. Now, if you look back at this specific scenario and how we have evolved so far, we tend to witness a very strange paradox of our life. And what is that? For this survival aspect, which has no limit, we have received extensive training. We going to IITs, we going to IIMs, MIT, Stanford, whatnot. However, you remember we talked about the timeless state which we love to be in. Did we care enough to extend the timeless state? What happened? We are quite intelligent, right? We now we just experience, like that's a state. It mostly happens as a fluke or by chance, not as a focused effort for us. And we love to be in that state and we would love to extend that state forever. But we don't realize we very explicitly receive training for that, right? Now, this is where I'm invoking the concept of context. Whether this paradox of life is, did we miss something in terms of the context? Now, I'm just giving a pointer here. We will deal with that as I move along. But maybe is there some kind of signature or some kind of equivalence we are going to find, like our job in life was to explain to a 3-year-old about working of a fan, but we somehow went on to do PhD and try to struggle to get a Nobel Prize. And every time we are trying to come back to this situation, we are only struggling, we are only having anxiety. It never ends. Like, every time we get something, we get anxious and restless, we try to get something else. Your anxiety and restlessness remains constant. So maybe there is a possibility that we might have missed a context. So again, I will come to that systematically, right? And again, I will only refer to the feelings that we witness and nothing theory or philosophy here, right? Okay, so assuming that, oh, there might be some context which we might have missed. Let's see, let's explore. Do we have some uh, hints of that? Okay. Now, I have been emphasizing the term time, and there is one beautiful context of time which we have been told. And it's again through our religious scriptures, specifically, I think, Bhagavad Gita, right? Again, I'm not taking it in a philosophical or religious sense, but I'm just trying to deal with it very objectively. And what is that? We have been told about some aspect of time, which is time cycle. We call it Kala Chakra. Again, let's not get too philosophical about it. Let's try to understand it very objectively. It talks about a cycle of life and death when it talks about this time cycle or Kala Chakra. Now, tell me one thing. Do we really know what happens before life and what happens after death? As a simple human being, which most of us are. So, when we are not knowing what it is, it becomes very difficult to relate to this cycle of life and death. There are probably reasons the way this has been told to us, and we will not get into that. These can be religious, political, and maybe some other vested interest, let's say. However, there is something very inherent here. Maybe we will try to decode that context. This is definitely about something to do with time. And one thing we know here that, okay, this is not something which we quite relate to as an individual. But is there something else to this, which probably we witness and we will be able to make sense out of this? Now I take you back to those aspects of times which we just talked about. A time cycle that we relate to. No, we were just talking about it, right? We keep switching between timeless state and time uncertainty, timeless state, time uncertainty. We might not have witnessed ourselves the cycle of life and death, but maybe this is something which we keep witnessing all the time. And we are also told in our religious scriptures that your focus is to break that cycle, and when you break that cycle, you attain state of moksha, which is kind of a state of being with God, very positive, spiritual kind of state, right? Now, let's say if you want to break this cycle, where we want to go? We really want to go towards the timeless state. If I break this, I want to be there in 20 at 24 hours, right? Now, we talked about it a little while ago, right? That, okay, makes sense, maybe it's good to go in there, but we have received a lot of training to address time uncertainty, all our degrees, IITs, IIMs, whatnot, right? But to seek the timeless state, it more or less happened by chance. Always it happens accidentally, not that we make an effort towards that. Did we kind of receive any training for that? No. Is there a guidance available for that? Not as such that we can think of, but if we go now, dig deeper there, you will realize that there is something which guides you. And you know what is that something? That's your inner voice. Now again, let's not get philosophical here. Just try to explore those feelings a little deeper. Whenever you are in that state, there is something from within that keeps telling you, oh no, this is the good thing to do. Even let's say a very complex situation where you really are angry about somebody, you really want to kill somebody, but from deep down, something will tell you what really you should do at that point of time. In anything that you do in your life, when you're dealing with your relatives, your near and dear ones, in a professional life and all that, there might be 100 things that might be bothering you, but always there is one unique thing which tells you, oh, this is the right thing to do. Again, yeah, sounds good, but is it so easy to hear this? And again, is it easier to even act on that? No. I think that we can also say unanimously, right? And what is really causing the problem there? It is actually our mind. Now again, yeah, we all know it's very difficult to manage our mind. It creates all kind of chaos. Yeah, we all know that. So definitely we need to control our mind, right? Again, yeah, you must have heard that in many sermons or something, right? But yeah, that's a fact. But now I'm just trying to take you to that step through some reasoning, right? The timelessness, uncertainty, breaking the cycle, and of course you need to control. Now, very practical aspect of controlling anything, again, mind as well. If you think that something is causing nuisance, first thing is to ignore it. Again, we have been told about this. But one practical aspect of ignorance, you can't ignore by focusing on ignoring. You can only ignore things if you focus somewhere else, right? Now, let's see how we can exercise this in the context of mind. Now, tell me one thing based on the discussion so far. What should you ignore? I think you should ignore something that you know is not going to take you anywhere. Sounds good, right? And what should we focus on? If you want to ignore something, you need to focus somewhere else. And what we should focus on? You should focus on something you love from within, right? Very obvious in the context we are talking about. Now, this is where another question comes. We would definitely try to ignore things which we know that are not going to take us anywhere. And again, I talked about that, right? Our focus on that survival. So whenever there is anxiety and all that, we know there is some survival instinct there. Even if we address that, it's not going to take us anywhere. So we should ignore that. Again, as I said, I'm only emphasizing word ignore. I'm not saying anything about acting there or action there. Ignore is the first step at any moment. And then at that moment, try to focus on securing the timeless state, right? Which we love from within. Now, this is where we don't have too much of a training. But do we really need a training? And this is where I talk. When you take what should we focus on, we know we should focus on timeless state. But how should we focus on? I will narrate another story here. And it's story of a mother. Let's say a child is sick. Mother will take him to a doctor. Doctor could not cure him. So she will go to a better doctor. And let's say she goes everywhere and everybody gives up. She does not say, oh, I did my job, now I don't care. That's my child's faith. No, she never says that. She will turn the entire world upside down. She will go to cracks, she will try black magic, she will knock every possible door, whatever is the possibility she will explore like anything till her child is cured. Right? Now, at the end of it, if she looks back at it, she would have done so many impossible things she was not trained for. She would never imagine, oh, did I do that? You know what is acting here? It is her passion which is acting. When you are passionate like that mother and only concerned about that end goal, things or the process automatically follows. And we have experienced that in many things wherever we are, which we are passionate about, right? We suddenly realize, oh, did some miracle happen or what? No, actually your passion is at play, and in that case your training and all, nothing matters. Things just happen, means follow. You are so passionate about that end goal, and that's mother's passion is the best way to illustrate that, right? So now when I said to focus to get that timeless state, maybe we are not trained for that, but we don't need that training, we just need that passion. We should be so desperate that probably we'll get it somehow, right? Now again, what will we do exactly? At any moment, ignore anything that has a signature of survival. I'm saying ignore that, I'm not saying don't act, but just ignore it for that moment. Something that has a signature of survival, because we know it's not going to get us anywhere. If we'll get that, we'll be anxious for something else, we'll be anxious for something else, it will just repeat. So whenever you're anxious or restless, be very happy. Again, counterintuitively I'm saying that at least even if you do that, nothing is going to come good out of it. So just ignore. I'm not saying, again, I'm repeating, I'm not saying about action. Just ignore. With that approach, that relieves you a bit at that moment, and there you focus with that mother-like passion to attain the timeless state at that moment. What you can do at that moment so that you will feel timeless. And when I say, when it comes to action, let your reflex act. Whatever comes to your mind, whatever at that moment while you are seeking passionately that timeless state, whatever action comes, act like that. This is the reflex action. In reflex action, mind is not acting. Like something, you are walking and something falls on you, your immediate response, your mind does not work there, right? But that's a very inherent approach to react, which all of us have, right? So ignore anything that has a signature of survival, and this will help you to little bit be comfortable at that situation, and try to really see what that we are talking to somebody, you're working on something, you're listening to something. Focus so much as if you will never get that moment, and try to seek that timeless moment, and just act as your natural reflexes are leading you act, right? What is this state called? This is exactly what is called as living in the moment. Now if you really look at whatever you might have been told about this, what sense you really made out of this? But now when I say living in the moment, you know what that means. Ignore survival struggle. So wherever there is a symptom of anxiety and restlessness, ignore that. Again, I'm not saying don't act on that, ignore that. At that very moment, you're still in that moment, focus with utmost passion, that mother-like passion, on the timeless state. You will always feel those pointers of positivity and content when you are trying to look for that. Wherever you feel that, try to be there. Try to guide yourself there through your reflex actions. Now let me just give you one example here, and you will find many. Let's say, again, you're having a meeting with your boss on certain topic, and definitely when you are having such a meeting, the intent is to really work on something and solve some problem and progress the project forward. Let's say when you go for the meeting, maybe you would have anxiety. Oh, I was supposed to do that, I did not do that. No, what will happen? So it's something always coming from what you have in the past. There might be some kind of anxiety or restlessness because of, oh my god, if I don't get this through today in this meeting, I might have impact on my career, my increment, my social life, personal life, whatnot, right? You're worrying about that. That is coming from future. But at that moment, when you are discussing or talking on something, there is nothing you can do what has happened in the past, right? So there is nothing you can do at that moment. It is what it is. You don't even know what is going to happen, so there can be thousand possibilities of the future, right? Why only takes one bad possibility, right? But what you can do best at that moment is, again, like that passionate mother, focus on that conversation, focus on that topic, focus on that discussion with all your energy, as if you will never get that moment, only seeking in your own selfish interest that timeless state where you get a feeling of positivity, contentment, or something like that, right? If you do like that, you will not realize what you achieved. Many times you would wonder, oh my god, did I do this? Because no, there is nothing better than that you can do at that moment. And just go with the flow. This is where your reflex action starts. Even if you if you think that something is wrong, then you will have guts to respond. You will have guts to, because your focus is on seeking the timeless positive state at that point of time. You don't know how it will come, but you try to be as passionate as that. You will definitely get something. And many times you would have experienced these kind of situations in many things that you do, and you would see, oh, did I do that? You would kind of feel that like as a miracle. But that's the power of living in the moment. And we can do that almost in everything that we do. This is a very simple one rule that we are looking at. Whether you are whether you're talking to your daughter, whether you're talking to your wife, your mom, your friends, your social circle, you're working on something in your office, you're working on your art hobby, everything. Again, I'm not saying there is no survival happening here. Your reflex action, if somebody is going to hit you, this does not mean that you will obviously respond. If you have a concern about something which is about your survival, that will always be at the back of your mind. That will come, but that will come whenever it has to come, not keeping you worried for the rest of the time. Excuse me. So this is what is called as living in the moment. Try to really witness that. You must have done that lot many times earlier. And when you are looking at every moment that you're living with, personal, professional, or anything, if you proactively seek this, you will see how your life will be impacted. Right? So this is as far as this video is concerned. In my next video, I will talk about concept of karma. Again, I'll try to demystify around it to really bring out the real context, because here also there is something counterintuitive. We feel that focus on karma and not on the outcome. It seems weird, like how come without focusing on the outcome you can focus on karma, right? But yes, maybe there is a different context. It is rightly said, but there is a different context to it. I'll talk about it again using the similar principles what I kind of touched upon in this video. Also, we have been told about about our true self. What is our true self? We should be able to realize who we are. Is that very complex, or it's quite simple, or are we really missing the context behind that? Again, based on what I told you so far, probably we can very easily identify it, and once we are able to identify that, we can deal with that better. It's the same way. Once we know that there is a 3-year-old at the other end, we'll obviously explain him through a concept of god and fairy and not complex physics. But if we don't know, then we might be doing 10 other things. We will never achieve that. So that's why knowing the context is very important, because then your reaction will be in line with that, and you will not struggle with anxiety and restlessness. That's the main thing. And I explained you living in the moment in that context. And if you really look at that context, almost everything should follow naturally. Of course, you need to take efforts, but at least you are taking efforts for something which is going to take you somewhere, and not to the Mars where again you will struggle, right? So yeah, so before I conclude, I just wanted to give you the composition of my book. Now, what is there in this book? Uh, the first chapter is about understanding the context. I explained to you, right? Now, why do we need to? What do we mean by context, right? So that's what first chapter. Why understand the context is relevant in spirituality. Because spirituality really started as a pure thing, but it really got lots of, I would, I will not call it corruption, but a lot of haziness there because of its seamless overlap with religion and politics. So when it comes to spirituality, are we starting from scratch? No, not probably. Because we have spirituality inherently overflowing within us. I told you, right, the state of timelessness. We all keep feeling that. Why don't we feel it already all the time? Because we are actually stuck in survival struggle. Why? Because we conveniently miss the context of time cycle. Okay, we understood the timelessness and time uncertainty, that cycle, right? That's the real cycle. Now, what should we work on now? Yes, we should focus your efforts to move towards the timeless spiritual state. Okay. Who will guide us? Nobody else, your inner voice. It is quite sound to guide you. How to listen to your inner voice? Oh, you need to deal with your mind, which creates all the nuisance. You need to drive your mind by your passion. What to train mind for? Living in the moment. To really make the best of every moment. Obviously, we are living like that. Not everybody else is like that. Will they cause problem? Again, when you are thinking like that, there is a signature of anxiety and restlessness. No, nobody will cause problem. I think if we manage ourselves, we don't need to bother about anybody else. Where are we headed with this? To discovery of our own true self. Again, I'll talk about it. This is already in the book. I'll talk about it also in my next video. Okay, we understood now how to get started, and that's what is the last chapter about. And hopefully, the way I have structured it, if we understand this, if we inculcate this, hopefully, this will help us to get out of our time cycle. Right? So, yeah, this is all about the book, what I wanted to tell you in this video. This book is available on Amazon. If you are interested, I will definitely uh, request you to read that book. There are much more examples there, and there is a very systematic flow because, of course, I can't take you through almost everything in this video. But yeah, if you are interested, I will definitely recommend you to read it. If you have any queries and all that, I will prefer not to have comments in this video because this is quite involved and serious topic. The discussion should also be in that context, right? So I really appreciate if you connect with me on this email ID. So that's for now. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon with my second and maybe more videos. Thank you so much.